Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/AmITheDevil for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the posts, giving you my own opinion, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Relationships. Am I the asshole for thinking my significant other is spineless and losing a good amount of respect for him? My, female 36, significant other, male 36, have been together more than half our lives now. I always felt he was unreliable, but the big moments happened during a time where I was also immature and trying to understand myself. Anyway, we were at the home improvement store getting help. We had been there for minutes getting help, and when we were finally able to check out with the rep, the cash register froze. The rep apologized and asked me to finish up at the next line and let the cashier there know about the situation before leaving. Here's where things get dicey. We had been getting help from that rep for maybe 15 to 20 minutes. There was no one in any of the other lines and/or people were coming and going quickly. When I got moved to the other line, it had started to queue up and we were third in line now. In my opinion, I was there first at customer service and just needed to check out at a different machine because their machine broke on us. I have no problem with speaking up and asking if this could be done in a friendly and accommodating manner. As I went to do this, my significant other stopped me, saying the other person is next in line and I have to wait. I explained to him that we've been here for a long time, before anyone else. Due to no fault of our own, by the way. The customer service rep had been having computer trouble the whole time, and that I'm okay with speaking up and asking the person in front of us or the new rep if it's okay. To be completely transparent, I didn't really care what the other customers would say. It would be me being nice, in my opinion. I was there at customer service way before anyone else and literally just needed to finish checking out. If the customer disagreed, I would have just asked the customer rep. And if they also disagreed, I would have been salty, but wait in line if I had to. My significant other knows this. I'm not going to start any drama over waiting in line a bit longer. Hell, now that I think about it, I maybe could have left and found the self-checkout line, hindsight 2020. Anyway, I explained this to my significant other, and I would have been okay if he disagreed, but still stayed with me. Instead, he said he didn't have anything to do with this and walked away, far enough to not be associated or seen with me. Please note this was a quiet conversation between my significant other and I. There was no belligerent behavior. I thought what my significant other did was unreliable, showed he didn't have the balls to speak up and advocate for himself or even support me quietly when I do so for myself. The fact that he left me there only tells me he cares about the opinions of others to this extent, and that he finds such trivial things embarrassing. Makes me see him as a pussy. Am I wrong for this thinking? We're on vacation right now, and honestly this incident kinda turned my vagina into a desert. I'm super disgusted by him and his behavior and feel like I lost a massive amount of respect for him. Edit. Please note, I did wait for the current person being waited on to be finished before asking to be checked out. I did not immediately demand to be checked out. I waited. Okay, I had to pour myself a drink for this one, by the way, because this was a lot. Now, what you guys didn't see was roughly the 30 minutes to 40 minutes that I spent reading every single one of OP's comments in the conversation that fell beforehand. And oh my god, it is a lot. They were fighting for their life in the comments section with paragraphs upon paragraphs, and it is a lot. The Reddit users were talking at a brick wall here. The best way that I can summarize it is despite going to a subreddit where you're asking if whether or not you're in the wrong, if you're the asshole in your relationship, they came to the subreddit expecting people to agree with them. They weren't looking for any form of disagreement or any form of discussion that could potentially put them in a position where they might be wrong. They were looking for people to just simply validate their experience with no kind of pushback. And it shows. So, just to break things down, because as I was reading things, I took a couple notes here and there just so I could keep my thoughts generalized and collected. Something that I kind of noticed based upon the boyfriend's behavior here is that while OP in their comments would claim otherwise, This is not one-off behavior. For him to just immediately at the notion that you might start asking customers to skip them in line or even address the rep directly, that his response is to walk away and put distance between you and the actions you're about to cause, that means that this is common behavior for you. And this isn't the first time you've done this, which you kind of actually inadvertently admitted to in your own post by the way that you said, what was the wording again? Oh yeah, it's in my notes here. Quote, "I have no problem with speaking up and asking if this could be done in a friendly and accommodating manner." My guess is you and I would probably have very different definitions of what would qualify as friendly and accommodating. And so would your boyfriend, who upon hearing that you're about to be friendly and accommodating, decided to put as much distance between the two of you as possible. Your boyfriend is uncomfortable by your common behavior. Now, what ended up happening here is, yeah, you're inconvenienced by a machine. That sucks. But you being inconvenienced by that machine does not suddenly give you free pass to inconvenience everyone around you. Yes, it sucks that this happened to you, but as you stated, you could have gone to the self-checkout line, which is probably why the reps weren't chomping at the bit to throw you in front of everyone else, because you could have just gone to self-checkout. A lot of people in the comments also accused OP of being entitled, which they refuted, but keep in mind here that you stated that you were going to ask the customer in front of you if you could cut in front of them, and if they said no, then you would ask the rep if you could cut in front of that customer, and if they said no, then you would be salty about it. That's entitlement. I don't know how else to spell it out for you. Being salty implies that you felt as though you were done some kind of wrong, that you felt as though that their responses were unwarranted or simply incongruent with the reality around you. That response being you being able to cut in front of the customers. And finally, in numerous comments, OP seems to define what she finds to be spineless is not agreeing with her or following her sense of authority or what she finds to be the correct response to things. If you approach life in a different way, that makes you spineless. Not wanting to be entitled and ask the customer in front of you if you can cut in front of them makes you spineless. The boyfriend isn't being doormatted by the customer service rep, he just doesn't want to make an unnecessary scene. You're in a home improvement store. I don't think the person in front of you is going to be spending 10 to 15 minutes checking out. It's probably going to be pretty goddamn fast. It's a home improvement store. Yes, it's possible to have quite a large supply of items to check out in a home improvement store, but I get the feeling based upon OP's attitude, if that was the case, we would have heard about it. OP to me feels like she's making mountains out of molehills, and rather than just simply be patient for what might amount to be an additional minute, she would rather go on Reddit and call her boyfriend a pussy who's making her extremely dry because he didn't want her to make a scene and bug and inconvenience the people around her. For someone in her own post claims that she's not going to make drama over having to wait in line a little bit longer, you sure as hell are ready to box with every single person who disagree with you in the comments section and go to Reddit to complain about how much your boyfriend makes you dry. I'm sorry if I came off extra aggressive on this one. I think having to read all the comments kind of threw me for a bit of a loop here, and I just kind of had to marinate and stew in my frustrations with how much of a brick wall OP was being, and all of that just came out in that 4.5 minute rant that I just spewed right there. Which, believe it or not, wasn't even everything. Cross posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for not picking up my sister-in-law at work after she got me discounted clothes? My younger sister-in-law lives with me and works at a retail store for a national clothing brand. She gets a 30% discount on clothing from the store. Early on a Saturday, I stopped by the store to pick out some clothes, about 3 pairs of pants and 2 shirts. After picking out the clothes, I left the clothes with my sister-in-law at the store since she needed to purchase the clothes herself for the discount to work, and she can only make purchases during her break. We had a shared understanding that I would pay her back for these clothes. That night, I went to a party with her boyfriend and my husband. When it's time to leave, her boyfriend suggests that we pick her up from work. I shut it down and say we should just head home, since where she works is not on the way. From the party location to my house is 20 minutes, but if we picked her up and then went home, it would take us 45 minutes. When my sister-in-law got home from work, she was crying and in tears, saying that she felt underappreciated since I didn't offer to pick her up, even though I used her discount, and since she had to carry home all the clothes with the bag ripping along the way. She said she wanted to surprise me by covering the cost of one of the pants too. At my husband's urging, I apologized to his sister, but I still don't know if I'm in the wrong here. She usually takes the train home from work, which takes 35 minutes. The store is next to the train station, and my house is also steps away from the closest train station, so I didn't think it would be all that inconvenient. I don't know if this is relevant, but I also cook most of her dinners and enough leftovers for her to pack her lunch, and don't ask for anything in return. So I also figured her letting me use her discount and her bringing the clothes home was a small gesture of appreciation from her. So am I the asshole? Edit, she lives with me rent-free. In the comments, OP also clarifies that in this moment she was the one driving home, so that's why she had the full authority just to shut things down. So because of a few of the inserts in here, I get the impression that OP isn't looking for an honest discussion on whether or not their behavior was justified or not, and is just looking for validation. And what gives me that impression is, well, for starters, the title. Am I the asshole for not picking up my sister-in-law at work after she got me discounted clothes? In the title, the usage of discounted clothes is almost as if that's somehow justifying the behavior here. That alone is enough grounds to not justify picking her up from work. I would also like to add real quick that her using her employee discount for a non-employee could actually cost her her job. So she's kind of going out on a limb here to get OP these 3 pairs of pants and 2 shirts. There's also the added information of the leftovers as well as the final edit. She lives with me rent-free. OP is really doubling down here. Like, if this is how you feel, then kick sister-in-law out. Don't hold it above her head for justification to internet strangers as to why you're not picking her up from work after you were at a party with her boyfriend and your husband. A 20-minute detour is not that big of a deal for someone who risked their job and sacrificed their break to get you clothes at a 30% discount. Hell, I don't care if they were full-priced or free. Either way, she did you a favor. And instead, you're trying to find every little reason as to why that favor was actually deserved, before even considering getting her a ride home from work. This is one of those weird situations where, like, yeah, technically speaking, you are 100% in the right to say no to this. And hell, maybe with different wording, you wouldn't be the asshole here. But it's the way that you're phrasing this and the way that you're going about it and the way that you're trying to find every possible excuse to justify your actions that puts you into the asshole category here. I mean, hell, let's just take a look at this comment here. User Necessary Being 862 comments, "You sound like a crappy sister-in-law, to be honest. I don't care if it's not on the way. Hell, I don't care if she got me clothes or not. I would pick her up regardless. I've been married twice. Super close with my former sister-in-law. She's still my sister-in-law in my eyes. And super close with my sister-in-law now. And I'd do anything for them. Because I love them. Unless I'm unable, or I would simply communicate with them saying it's out of the way. But if she got me a good-ass deal and covered part of the cost, I'm picking her up. Period. So, because you cook food, she's just supposed to let you use her discount? And when she asks you a favor, it's, well, I cook food we all eat, so you owe me the discount. As if. You're the asshole, and a big one at that. And the OP responds, I didn't know she was going to cover part of the cost since we originally were on the same page that I would pay her back for the purchase she made for me using her employee discount. It's my birthday later this month, so after she got home, that's when she mentioned that she had wanted to surprise me with covering the cost of one of the pants as an early birthday gift. In another comment, she mentions that the 25 minutes would have been too much time because her dog really needed to be let out. It comes across as though none of her actions are actually her own, and she's not responsible for the choices she made. And there's so many things that are outside of her control, but also, she already does so much, so really she should be thanking her. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Like, to me, it feels as though she's using previously agreed arrangements, or, hell, even just circumstances to justify why it's okay for her to neglect her sister-in-law after her sister-in-law did something nice for her. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for telling my friend there's no such thing as taking advantage of my child? I have a 16-year-old son, I'll call Nate. I have 2 other kids who are an 8-year-old girl and a 17-year-old boy. Nate is a very helpful kid. Does good in school, plays football, comes home, helps me out with chores and cooking, helps my 8-year-old with his homework, does his homework, etc. Nate's birthday was on Tuesday, and one of my friends called me to wish him a happy birthday, and afterwards asked me what I got for him. He doesn't really ask for much and said he didn't want a gift this year because he didn't want me to spend too much money. When I told her that, she said that I should get him something anyways so it doesn't look like I'm taking advantage of his kindness or whatever. I told her that there's no such thing as taking advantage of your own child, which started some bickering between us. I eventually hung up and we haven't talked much since. Am I the asshole? Edit, my 17-year-old basically just does his chores, nothing outside of what I tell him to do. I have to cook for my husband and do other things after work, so if he doesn't correct her homework, I won't find the time to do so. So basically, 16-year-old goes above and beyond, 17-year-old does the bare minimum, and 8-year-old is getting assistance from the 16-year-old for homework because mom can't be bothered to help because she doesn't have the time. And additionally, the child that's saying that they don't want anything is being taken at face value and somehow is receiving less love and respect than someone who just spent 20 years working at Walmart and on their anniversary received a $100 gift card, as a thanks for their loyalty. I wish that was a joke, but unfortunately it is not. Is it possible the child genuinely doesn't want anything? Yeah. Should the mother still do something for her child on his birthday? Yeah. But that's also not even the crux of the issue here. That's like just such a minor little drop in the pond. The main problem here is the parentification that's going on. Whether this is bait or not can definitely be discussed in the comments, but regardless of that, parentification still happens. Like, even if this story is bait, there is still the underlying truth that many kids are parentified from a young age and taking on responsibilities that they shouldn't have to. To put it quickly, for those of you who may not be aware, parentification is essentially the practice of putting parent responsibilities on one of the older children with the expectation that they will fulfill those duties. Oftentimes, at the cost of their social life, or the ability for them to take extracurricular activities, or the ability for them to have free time, or the ability for them to take college courses, their own studies, their homework. Essentially, robbing them of their youth. And just to clarify, this doesn't mean that making a child do chores is parentification. What this means is when a child comes home, they're expected to do the household chores, take care of their siblings, make sure they're fed, make sure they're in bed on time, make sure they get their homework done, help them with schoolwork. Pretty much leaving them on a day-to-day basis with no time to themselves. And it can be far more extensive than just that. I'm giving a surface-level explanation of what's honestly an ocean of abuse. And yes, that's what it is. It is a form of abuse. A form of abuse, despite what OP who made the title might think, that involves taking advantage of your child. Their inability to say no to their parents. Their inability to be able to escape a situation where they're relied upon. And if they leave that situation, they're blamed for their siblings not receiving the level of care they need. They're blamed for not being able to provide for the family. They're blamed for not being there when the family needs them the most. It creates a lot of really nasty guilt complexes and puts them in situations that they shouldn't be in. So yes, you can take advantage of your child. Originally posted to r/TrueOffMyChest. Considering leaving my house because of my dysfunctional family dynamics, mainly my daughter. I'm 52 male, married to my wife, 51 female. We have a son, male 18, and a daughter, female 14. My daughter is in high school, and my son is going to college in a few months. My wife and I have had a lot of issues, and have seen a couples therapist for a few years. While we still deeply care for each other, and we're still working on our relationship, we've discussed separation a few times. My daughter is a very spoiled teenager. She's extremely extroverted and has a big personality. She takes 90% of the attention in our household. She's being driven to extracurricular classes multiple times a week, quite far. She gets a lot of clothes and basically has everything she wants. I should also say, I've long suspected she has borderline personality disorder, but she's never been officially diagnosed. My daughter and I have had a strange relationship. When she was young, we were very close. I would read bedtime stories to her and take her to movies. At some point, probably around when she was 9, so about 5 years ago, she started acting in a very hostile manner towards me. I honestly can't remember what started this. I believe we just had an argument. I had annoyed her, perhaps. And that started the whole thing. Yep, right there, I had some missing reasons. So, around 5 years ago, my daughter started drifting apart from me, acting very rude. When I confronted her, she would blame me for things that never happened. For various reasons, it took me years to get my wife on board to see this. By then, she became a teen, and it literally got to the point where she's basically stopped treating me like her father. She's almost always rude, and when she's not, she's ignoring me. She hasn't been nice or said a single friendly thing in probably more than 4 years. I have my theories why this behavior started, but don't know for a fact. I've spoken to her therapists, she's had 3 during this time, and nothing ever came out of it. Sometimes my daughter's behavior is just insulting, but sometimes it's really humiliating, like going to a school event where both my wife and I come to support her, and have her rush to her mom in excitement and completely ignore me, even when other people are present. Then again, she does come to me when she needs me to drive her, or money, or things like that. I want to emphasize that it's never, ever better. Even if we haven't had an argument in months, she'll just not be friendly to me. It may sound weird, but the closest I can describe our relationship is that as if she's my stepdaughter, and she's sometimes cordially polite, but she's always hostile and never nice. It is very different with her mom. You may say typical teen behavior, but I don't think this consistent and this point almost lifelong mistreating of me is typical. Not having a single pleasant interaction for what is effectively most of her life is just not normal. I've tried everything. Punishing her. I've tried being nice to her. I've tried giving her gifts. In the end, it feels like around 5 years ago she wrote me off as a parent and just doesn't care. She gets all the attention she needs from her mom and that's sufficient. I've only been able to get my wife to notice this around 1.5 years ago, and only in recent months, I've been able to get her to notice how bad it is. And by now, it feels so entrenched that this can't be changed. Recently, with my wife on board, we've at least been able to sometimes get her to be more polite. But it doesn't change the fact that we simply don't have a father-daughter dynamic at all. In the past 2 years, our relationship started feeling very toxic. If my daughter acted like that to everyone, I could live with it. But I have daily reminders that she is capable of being pleasant and loving with others. I started resenting her and not wanting to be around her. The thing is, her behavior is somewhat contagious. In the past year, my son, who is normally a sweet person, has been sometimes rude to me or ignoring me. This sometimes even results in my wife acting this way. Because of this, I've started dreading family activities. There could be an active family discussion where I'm just completely ignored. It's an interesting dynamic. My daughter is the most extroverted person in our family, so if someone wants to carry a family conversation, they have to engage with her. But in my case, she will deliberately ignore everything I say. So the overall effect is that I'm often just shut out of family discussions. It's at the point where I feel like a guest at my own family, so I'm trying to avoid situations where I'm with everyone together. One of the aspects I've been struggling with has been the fact that it's just not fair. While she's obviously my daughter and I need to provide her with food and shelter, how is it fair that she acts to me this way and just gets everything she ever wants? If I were a single parent, I would do exactly that. Stop paying for any extra activities, stop driving her everywhere. If she won't be nice, there should be at least some consequences. My parents certainly did that when I was misbehaving as a teenager. I raised the possibility of doing this, but my wife pretty much vetoed it, saying that there should be consequences only if my daughter is rude. I even raised the possibility of sending her to boarding school and was vehemently vetoed as well. I feel so powerless in moderating her behavior, And yet, I'm still expected to sacrifice so much in terms of time and money for my daughter. It's just not fair. One final important point. I've been battling mental issues for years, and this constant stream of never-ending insults, both large and small, has been really taking its toll on my mental well-being. I've been fighting depression and self-esteem issues, and this has been absolutely terrible for me. Both my wife and myself work from home, so we're constantly near our kids. So this is constant. It never ends. In the past year, I feel it's gotten to the point where salvaging our relationship is impossible, or at least no longer a priority, and I really need to focus on protecting myself. It's been so long that it's had a real damaging effect on me. Last night, during dinner, I asked my daughter a question about school. She just flat out ignored me and continued speaking to my son. I asked her again. She ignored me, so I stood up and went elsewhere. As I was leaving my room, I heard my wife say, "It's so rude that you ignore your father." And my daughter started making up stories. At first, how she wasn't ignoring me, of course she was, and then how she apologized. Huh? She's never sincerely apologized for anything, and then started screaming. By then, I was elsewhere, and later I had a fight with my wife about this. It then dawned on me. Despite my best efforts, not only do we have a terribly dysfunctional family dynamic, but I've also become the family doormat. My wife is the family boss. I'm irrelevant? Ignored? I don't matter. I'm a quasi-parent, not a real parent. Anyway, perhaps I can live with the former but not the latter. I refuse to be a doormat and yet still have to spend all this effort to be a parent. It might sound like going too far, but I'm thinking of moving out of my house. For my own well-being. I feel I can't stay here anymore. My son is going to college in a few months, so I'll make effort to keep in touch. I'm not interested in staying in touch with my daughter. Maybe in a few years, maybe if she acted very differently, but not like it is now. This is it. Thank you for reading. Edit, thank you for the overwhelming support. It really means a lot. I'm going to speak to my wife. I'm also going to speak to my daughter. Then I'll decide how to proceed. Real quick, the overwhelming support, by the way, are a lot of comments telling him to just ghost his family. Edit 2. I want to thank again everyone who commented, both the supporters, but also those who blamed me. And so many of my comments were just heavily downvoted, seemingly for no reason. The discussion I led today was extraordinarily helpful in helping me understand the situation and what I should do. I had a discussion earlier today with my wife where we truly aligned expectations. It was not the best conversation, but it was necessary, and I feel significantly better. I'm going to set to my daughter new rules. Simple, respect is expected, and disrespect/rudeness will not be tolerated. If the rules won't be followed, she's going to face severe consequences. My wife promised she will be on board. If she's not, then truly, I will need to leave. Of course, easier said than done, but I think there's a clear path ahead. Thank you all again. Hey, real quick, I just want to, before I dive into this, if you're dealing with a teenager who's being a little bit rude and disrespectful, as 14-year-olds sometimes are, probably the fastest way for you to make the situation worse is enforcing them to be nice to you. You are speedrunning being estranged, my dude. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is your armchair diagnosis for your daughter having BPD. No, she doesn't. If she has a stable and consistent behavior around other people but treats you this way, that's not BPD. She just doesn't like you. Additionally, she's also been to 3 separate therapists, and none of them have recommended her for psychiatric evaluation or anything along those lines. So I'm very much inclined to believe that you're trying to just deny the fact that your daughter just doesn't like you for reasons we'll get into a little bit in a second here, and trying to hide it behind mental illness instead. Because the other option is not to your liking. So at the beginning I mentioned there being some missing reasons here, and this is a very prominent example, and this pops up multiple times throughout the post, and I try to take notes when I noticed it, but I know I missed a few. The first one that we see is at the beginning when I first mentioned it, and it's when the daughter brings up things that never happened, and OP doesn't elaborate on what those things were. What were they? What were the things your daughter apparently made up? All you say is that we had an argument, you annoyed her perhaps, and that started the whole thing. She became very rude, blamed you for things that never happened, and a therapist didn't give you answers that you were prone to liking. Hence why she probably went through 3. So what was that argument? What were the things that she accused you of that never happened? Because those seem to be the crux of the behavior as to why she's treating you like this. I'm really given the impression here that you don't like the fact that you have total and full control over the family unit, and that makes it dysfunctional. I mean, hell, doesn't seem like you're talking with your daughter about this, and when you don't get the results you want, you go with punishing her, then trying to be nice to her, and then showering her with gifts to no avail. It doesn't sound like you're trying to be a father, it just sounds like you're trying to have authority over the situation, whether it's the carrot or the stick. We actually get a soft taste of this here too with the fact that he describes her behavior as being contagious. You did something, didn't you? To the point where your son believes your daughter over you, and so does your wife. And actually, I found this a little bit funny. In the paragraph where he talks of the behavior being contagious and the son and wife are now on the same page about it, he also has this little part here where he says, it's an interesting dynamic. My daughter is the most extroverted person in our family, so if someone wants to carry a family conversation, they have to engage with her. But in my case, she will deliberately ignore everything I say, so the overall effect is that I'm often just shut out of the family discussions. I had this as a missing reasons note, and below I put in just a quick little note here. People want to converse with daughter, dad butts in, dad is ignored, dad complains, people don't like the fact that dad keeps interrupting. That was a theory that I had. That wasn't supposed to be confirmed. Then literally a few paragraphs later we had, quote, she just flat out ignored me and continued speaking to my son. I asked her again. She ignored me. I stood up and went elsewhere. He doesn't like the fact that he's not the center of attention and doesn't have control. And actually, in that same paragraph too, if we keep going, as I was leaving the room, I heard my wife saying, it's so rude that you ignore your father. And my daughter started making up stories. At first, how she wasn't ignoring me, of course she was, and then how she apologized, she's never sincerely apologized for anything, and then started screaming. What stories did she make up? Was it the fact that she wasn't ignoring you and apologized apparently? Are those the stories she made up? Or were there additional stories that she was trying to explain why her behavior was what it was and you just said that she was making those up? Language is a little bit vague there, so that was a question I had. But also, if your wife backed you up and said it's rude to ignore your father, then why did this happen? By then, I was elsewhere, and later I had a fight with my wife about this. Why were you fighting with your wife if she backed you up in the fight? And also, what do you mean by, then I was elsewhere? See, that's the missing reasons popping up, where you're kind of being really vague about your own actions, but targeting and ignoring the explanation for your 14-year-old child's actions. There is still a lot in here, and I'm sure you guys in the comments can point out a lot of them, but OP's post here doesn't pass the sniff test for him being the victim in this scenario. She's 14, dude. You're 52. I also, just additionally, because there's a little bit of a congruence here that I noticed while I was writing the notes, daughter's behavior started when she was 9, 5 years ago. The story opens up with, my wife and I have had a lot of issues and have seen a couples therapist for a few years. While we still deeply care for each other and we're still working on a relationship, we've discussed separations a few times. We also later in the post would be made aware that while the wife would back him up in front of the kids, they apparently would still fight about it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I was 4 years old, my parents were getting divorced, and those fights between them were loud. I remember countless nights of just staying awake in my bed while being 4 years old and just hearing those two go at it. For me, that was normal. When I gained consciousness, that was just a part of my daily life, was hearing those two fight. It was constant. And the reason why I bring that up is that if they're fighting, as they're stating, I'm guessing the kids heard it, because those fights aren't nearly as quiet as you might think they are. They're pretty fucking loud. I would know. And I bring that up because I wonder how much that might be playing an additional role into why the daughters treat the father as she is. To me, it seems like there's a lot of pieces at play here. A lot of pieces which are missing from the board. But hey, that's just what I'm noticing and just what I'm seeing, but let me know what you think in the comments and, where your radar's pointing. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for confronting my brother on his makeup stash? I, 35 female, moved out of my parents' house months ago, but the second upstairs bathroom is mine. But my little brother, 21 male, thinks he can just move his stuff in there now that I'm not living there. Okay. Well, I go over to visit, and for the first time in a while, I go to open one of the bathroom drawers, and I find a drawer full of makeup. It's not mine. I don't have that brand, and I have no idea why it's in there. At first, I yell at my brother from the bathroom, "Whose makeup is this?" And he just said, "I don't know." Well, he wasn't telling the truth, so I figured if I asked him again in front of our parents, he would tell the truth. So right before dinner, I waited till my parents and our other brother were around, and I asked him again about the makeup in my bathroom drawer. He kept lying, saying he didn't know, until I finally got it out of him that he was interested in drag and the makeup was his. He ran off to his room after that and didn't come out. You're a fucking monster. My dad was mad at me, saying that you didn't have to interrogate him like that, but my mom took our side, and my other brother just looked grossed out by the whole situation. My little brother refuses to talk to me since then, and he'll only talk to our dad. Dad says I'm an asshole because I forced him to tell us something he didn't want to tell us. But if he didn't want me to ask questions, he shouldn't have put the makeup in my bathroom drawer. Am I the asshole? First off, you don't fucking live there anymore. Second off, that dad is fucking based as hell. That's the kind of unconditional love that I wish was more common nowadays. But yeah, you're not just the asshole, you're a monster. Not all families are accepting of feminine-presenting male, whether it's just a guy wanting to be feminine, being a femboy, being trans, being drag, any of the options there. The thing is, you outed him without his permission. And you did it because he had the audacity to, wait, let me check again, put makeup in the drawer of your old bathroom in a house you no longer live in. How fucking dare he, am I right? You're 35, and you still act like this? How embarrassing. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.